Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. And today we're going to take a deep breath in and let it out. I already feel a little bit more relaxed. We're going to talk about rest. And I'm really excited to have Nina Nesdoly with me. We took a course together at Heroic Public Speaking, where we've really taken our speaking skills to the next level, learn all that stagecraft. And she's a really great human being and just recently did a TEDx that you guys should definitely check out. And she is a work, stress, and burnout prevention speaker, which we all need today. And she's also a researcher, TEDx speaker, as I just said, founder of Workplace Clarity. She draws on her interdisciplinary background in organizational behavior and also neuroscience to teach people and organizations how to mitigate work-related stress, prevent burnout, and build resilience. And also, she's currently doing her PhD, because it's not enough to have all those other degrees, studying work-related stress. And since founding her training business, Workplace Clarity, Nina has worked with organizations across North America. Her insights have been featured in BuzzFeed, MarketWatch, the Financial Times, and many other major publications. And outside, this is our interesting part, outside of work, Nina loves to skate, bike, travel, and read fantasy novels, and she will soon spend a month in Peru. Welcome to the show, Nina.
Thanks so much for having me, Penny.
So, whoa, that was stressful, just reading all that stuff that you've done. So tell me, was there a moment where you're like, your life just blew out of control and you said, I need to help other people doing this because I have this issue? Or a lot of people have this epiphany and they go into this. Tell me the backstory.
There's two separate moments, the life going out of control moment and the realizing I needed to help other people with this were two different points in time. So for myself, realizing that the way that I was working and the way that I was burning out and pushing myself was completely unsustainable came about in 2017. My dad had leukemia. And when he went into remission, I took this attitude of I need to make up for lost time. And I just loaded everything up, burnt out, was so sick, so burnt out and so tired that I collapsed and hit my head on the floor in a yoga class. That was still not the moment. I did not slow down quite then. I pushed my way through the concussion assessment, carried on for a month and landed myself back in hospital. Symptoms much, much worse, headaches, dizziness, exhaustion. Then finally, I slowed down. And when I started to return to work and school, I was doing my bachelor's in neuroscience at the time. After months off to recover, that was when I started to look at, okay, I need to be doing things differently and thinking about productivity and rest differently than I had been before if I want to continue to achieve big goals without running myself into the ground.
I was just smiling because I was like, well, if you want to stay alive, then you need to rethink rest, let alone all the things that you want to achieve. Because, you push yourself and push yourself and push yourself and you don't listen to the cues. I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of people feel like they'll sleep when they're dead. And there's all these expressions that we sacrifice all of those things and make compromises in our wellness for those goals and achievements. And it's counterproductive. It's like, well, because you're doing that, you're not going to reach the things that you want. Why don't we get that?
I think it's partly the messaging that we're getting societally is about always doing more, more, more. And if we work more, we'll accomplish more. If we put in more hours, we'll make more progress. More is always better. And it's this way that we think about productivity as doing something that has this measurable output attached to it. So it's a very counterintuitive shift to start to say, okay, hold on. Sometimes less is more. But that's really what we see in the neuroscience portion of how people work and what productivity and performance looks like. So when I was recovering from my burnout and my concussion, I really turned to the neuroscience because that's what I was studying to understand how I could be productive while protecting myself. And then it was a few years of focusing on that for myself and in the research. And then during the pandemic, looking around and going, oh my gosh, a lot of other people are struggling with this. And that's when I moved into the speaking, research, and consulting work that I do now.
Oh, so I was going to come back to that. So that was the point where you decided that you needed to do this for others. Well, yeah, I guess it just made it that much more. I think it's interesting that a lot of people say, oh, the pandemic created this. It didn't. It just made us present to it, and it exasperated or expanded the dysfunctions that we already had, just made it so that we couldn't ignore it any longer, right?
Exactly. And it really brought the term burnout in particular to the forefront. And it's really interesting because when I go in and I talk to people, they're like, yeah, like burnout's really been a problem for the last couple of years. That's not it. It's been a problem for a really long time. We just weren't using the word. And if you look in the literature, like researchers have been studying this for 4 decades, 5 decades that we've been looking at this and seeing this problem. I started my master's studying job stress and burnout in 2019. Before 2020 hit, I was already collecting data on burnout before we went into lockdown.
Right. Yeah, totally. It's been around for a long time. And I do want to come back to that point where you talked about a lot of people think that productivity is about doing more. I think that it's about achieving more, not doing more, achieving more in less time or with less. And so it's about working smarter. I almost say productivity isn't the point. Like I use this expression, Confucius says that a person who chases 2 rabbits catches none. And we get really good and better at chasing rabbits, but that's not the point. The point is to catch the rabbit. So I think we're caught up in this misconception. How do you help people like step back and realize that and embrace this idea of rest in a time where busy is a badge?
Part of it comes from rethinking productivity. So to your point, it's not just doing all of the things. It's about doing things effectively. And I also like to think of productivity as any action or behavior we're taking that helps us produce a desired outcome. And sometimes the outcome that we want to produce is happiness, work-life balance, enjoyment.
All the time.
All the time, yeah. But it's not always like our word count on the page or our sales quota or these deliverables that we're doing. Often we're looking to produce larger than that. We're looking to produce the life and the quality of work and experiences that we actually value. So part of that is stopping and looking around and saying, okay, what is it that I actually want as outcomes in my life and in my work? And it's hard to look at. And you sometimes have to then shift gears. So a couple of years ago, I started my PhD. And when I started my PhD, I was in the wrong program. I was in a program that I had chosen for the prestige, and I was miserable. I left after about 4 months. I transferred to a PhD program that I chose for the work-life balance, the kind supervisor, the alignment with my goals that are a bit more industry focused than academia. It was a huge blow to give up the prestigious program, knowing that in doing so, I was making the decision to probably never work at an Ivy League or some of these other doors that opened.
Right.
But admitting to myself that those doors being open was making me absolutely miserable meant that I got to go somewhere else. And funny enough, it was being in that new PhD program, that new environment that opened the doors for things like my TEDx talk. So it's a matter of saying, okay, what is it that I actually want to produce? And what most people want to produce is a life and a work that they are excited about, that's meaningful to them. So what actions are actually going to contribute to that?
So a mutual friend, Tim Ash, I just interviewed him for the podcast as well. And he was talking about rest just at the very end, right? He's like, so one thing, if I could tell you just one thing, it would be get more sleep. So a part of rest, sleep. I'm sure there's other variations of rest as well. But he was saying, and I'm interested in your perspective on this and anything you want to add to it, which I didn't know, that he was saying that so when we don't get enough sleep, that we get our social engagement changes and we kind of misinterpret facial cues and things like that. I mean, I relate to it being like when you don't sleep. I've had children that wake up in the middle of the night, you don't sleep, and you're just like on edge, like you're on eggshells. That if somebody were just to do something, you'd flip out. But he was saying that we misinterpret all these social cues. Is there something in neuroscience that you can share with us that people can understand, like how that is?
Yeah. So rule of thumb that I'm familiar with for sleep in relation to rest and well-being is that if you get less than 6 hours of sleep in a night, it is the bodily equivalent of a big stressor that you're encountering. So being stressed out about something that's going on in your life is comparable to getting less than 6 hours of sleep. So you wake up in the morning with less than 6 hours of sleep. Basically, you're starting your day already biologically stressed out. So everything is going to get harder. Like interpreting facial cues is just one in a myriad of different things that are going to be more difficult because your body is physically under stress. You are exhausted. So it's difficult to pick up on signals. Your brain is kind of full of garbage. One of the big functions of sleep that we understand from neuroscience is that it's kind of like a wash cycle for your brain. So I like to think of it as a city and you're driving along and all day long people are putting their garbage out on the street. That's you thinking. When you think and your neurons are firing, there's byproducts to that in your brain. And these land all over the streets. And when you sleep, nothing else is getting thrown out and the garbage truck gets to come around and pick everything up. But when you don't sleep, the garbage all stays out there. And now throughout the day, more of it gets piled on. And eventually you can get so much garbage that you actually block off roads. And that is where sleep starts to contribute very long term, but sleep starts to contribute even to cognitive decline and dementia and things like this because the roads are blocked in your brain. You didn't get those trash day pickups.
That's such a great analogy. I love that because it's so easy to understand and just so clear in the way that that's presented. So thank you for that. And I hope all of you are listening. I know I'm tracking my sleep and I'm really trying to be more present to that. But I also see that it's something that gets compromised or I don't sleep well. I'm at an age where I get like hot flashes and things like that disturb my sleep. So I'm trying to see better ways. But what other types of rest help to contribute to, there's not only sleep. What other type of rest do you suggest?
I mean, there's a big list of ways to rest. Some of it is socially connecting with other people. And biologically, that's another really cool one. When we have positive social interactions with others, it increases our oxytocin. And researchers refer to this as the social buffering hypothesis, where having positive interactions with others leads to an increase in oxytocin. Most of us know oxytocin as like the cuddle hormone. But in the last few years, we've also seen that oxytocin helps to regulate cortisol in the body. So connecting with other people through the mechanisms of oxytocin actually protects you against the effects of stress. So we've got sleep.
Just offset, it protects. So like it builds up. So like if it were a bank account.
A little bit. Yeah. So it kind of works in a lot of different directions. Oxytocin is really cool that way. So when you experience stress, your body also increases oxytocin to prompt you to seek out other people. So we have this natural inclination to seek other people. And then when we're around them, when we get that support, we have that oxytocin. As for the bank account view, I'm not sure. I don't know if we like store that oxytocin if we're interacting with people or if it's a little bit more fluid. But what we do know is we're prompted to reach out. And then there's a benefit when we do reach out and we connect with others.
Is that what they call the tend and befriend?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I understand that's a way that we can shift right out of stress and be more of like a challenge response versus a stress response.
Yeah. So there's that distinction too, where there's kind of different versions of our stress response. And depending on how we appraise our situations and what resources we believe we have, if we have more social support and if we have more control, then we're more likely to see our stressors as challenges that we can manage versus big threats that we're not going to be able to deal with.
So what haven't I asked you yet that we need to know about rest to really put this more into practice? Not just something that we know, but something that we do.
So we could make the list of all the different ways that we can rest. And I don't think we've got time for all the cool ways that we can, we can rest. But I think that in terms of what we do, one of the most important things that I see is that we need to make rest a practice, not a reward. Because the ways that we rest, be it sleeping to clean out our minds and consolidate memories, interacting with others to buffer against stress, exercising to increase our endorphins and flush stress out of the body, journaling to clear our minds, meditation to strengthen our positive connections in our mind. All of these things, when you do them, when you do things that feel good, that are forms of rest, that are forms of self-care, they make you better able to cope with stressors that come up. So our inclination is often to say, I got to get everything done first. I have to do the work first. I have to finish this project. I have to get all these stressors away from me. But dealing with stress gets so much easier when we rest first. So as a kind of rule of thumb that I like to use and I like to teach people is when you find yourself withholding, when you find yourself saying, I need to do this before I can go see a friend. I need to finish this project before I eat dinner tonight. I need to get this proposal done before I can sleep. That's your cue to go do that thing instead. When you're withholding, that's instead, you're going to say, I'm withholding rest right now. That means I need it. And when you have it and you get those benefits cognitively and physiologically, when you go back to the work, it's going to be faster, easier, more efficient, and less stressful.
Awesome. I like that. That's a really good practical tip that everybody can recognize. Just become a noticer and recognize when you're withholding it. And then when you're withholding it, take it. I like it. To me, that's a reset moment, right? So,
I was just thinking that too. I'm like, it's kind of a reset moment.
It is. So when you catch yourself withholding, that's a reset moment that you get to call for that reset and take that rest. So step back, do what you need. I talk about stepping back, getting perspective and realigning. So that's perfect. So we're coming to the end of our time. How can people reach you and hear more about you and have you come and speak to them?
Yeah, so I can be found on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, just by using my name, Nina Nesdoly. That's my handle and my username across platforms. You can book me to speak at ninanesdoly.com. For more training and consulting type services, you can reach me at workplaceclarity.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Penny.
And thank you guys for being here. Hopefully, what you're going to do is you're going to take a look and see all the different ways that you can get more rest and do rest first. I love it. Do rest first. There you go. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you after you rest on the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.